Your PlayStation 2 Fat model is about to get the ultimate upgrade. I'll show you all of the hardware and software you need and everything that you need to do step by step to get a solid-state drive installed in your PlayStation 2 so that you can start playing your favorite PS2 backup games in no time at all. Grab your PS2 and your PC because we're about to level up your PS2 gaming setup. Special thanks to 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐎𝐒 Labs for sponsoring this video. I'll be using some of their PS2 products to show you how to get this done. That starts with their free mcboot card. You can think of free mcboot as a replacement user interface for your PlayStation 2. It's an 8 MB memory card that stores both a new version of the bootable software for your PlayStation 2 and some key applications you'll need. You'll need a way to connect the solid-state drive to your PlayStation 2. It uses the older IDE interface style, and this adapter board from 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐒 Labs makes that possible. The top of this board has a male port on it that you connect to the PlayStation 2's hard drive interface. And on the bottom, there's a SATA port for connecting the SSD drive to the board. Naturally, you're going to need a solid-state drive. In this case, I'm using a PNY 1 TB drive. It's a fast and reliable SATA SSD drive, and you can store a ton of PlayStation 2 games on it. To transfer your PS2 games to your SSD, you'll need a dock like this. This connects a SATA hard drive over USB 3.0 to your computer. You can connect 2.5-inch and 3.5-inch drives. On the back of the unit, there's a USB-B style connection, a power button, and a barrel jack connection for connecting power from the wall. One of the really cool things about a dock like this is you can also clone drives with it by inserting the source and target drives and just pressing the clone button. It's like magic. The hard drive bay on the PlayStation 2 is a 3.5-inch drive bay, and the SSD is a 2.5-inch drive. That's where this adapter comes in. The adapter lets you insert the 2.5-inch drive into the 3.5-inch adapter and then screw it down into place to secure it. This way the smaller SSD fits properly in the larger size bay in the PlayStation 2. You'll need a USB drive to copy some files over from your computer to the free mcboot card. I like this SanDisk 128 GB drive. It's compatible with the PlayStation 2, and you can rotate it to go from USB-A, which is compatible with the PlayStation 2, to USB-C, which gives you better speed and compatibility for most modern computers. Nice. Oh yeah, and you're going to need a way to connect your PlayStation 2 to your modern display. This is where the 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐒 Labs PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 HDMI adapter comes in. The really cool thing about this adapter is that it works on both the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2. All you have to do is toggle this single switch, and it can work on both your PS1 and your PS2. Hook up an HDMI cable to one end, and this end of the cable to your PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1 system. The links for everything that you need to get this project done are available for you in the video description. And those links include getting the necessary software for the project. It's hosted on my website, and everything is combined into one single zip file. On this page, you'll also find the links to the products you need and a download button with the all-in-one file. Click on it to download the all-in-one zip file to your computer. Now that the file's downloaded, let's get it extracted. Right-click on File Explorer and open your Downloads folder. You'll find a new all-in-one zip file here. Right-click on it and select Extract All. Then come down to Extract at the bottom right corner and left-click on it. Once you've got it extracted, you don't need the zip file anymore. Right-click on it and select Delete to send it to the recycle bin. Okay, now that that zip file's extracted, let's take a look at the contents. Double-click into the folder and you'll find a subfolder here. Double-click into that folder and you'll find 3 items here. The first one is GUI format to format USB drives into FAT32 format. The second one is OPL, the Open PS2 Loader, and the third one is the OPL Manager for future use. The first tool we'll use is GUI format. So I'm going to take this window and just drag it over to the left side of the screen and snap it into place. Insert a USB-A drive into your computer. Just so we can see both File Explorer windows at the same time, I'm going to take this File Explorer window and drag it over to the right side of the screen and snap it into place over here. You'll need to identify the drive letter that's assigned to your USB drive by Windows. In this case, it's drive letter F, but Windows may assign a different drive letter to the drive that you plug into your own computer. Be sure to identify the correct drive letter here before you go to the next step. Otherwise, you might format the wrong drive on your computer and, well, McClunky. Let me know down in the comments if you know what McClunky is from and what it means. Okay, let's go ahead and get that USB drive formatted. Double-click on GUI format. At the UAC prompt that appears, click on Yes to continue. Before you try to use GUI format, make sure you close out any open instances of File Explorer. Click the right X on the windows to close them out, because otherwise GUI format will not be able to access the plugged-in USB drive. Before you format anything with GUI format, take a look right here. You'll need to make sure that the correct drive letter is selected in the drop-down. In this case, it is drive letter F, so it's the correct drive letter. But if you have the wrong drive letter here, click and select the correct drive letter. Otherwise, you might format your Windows drive, and well, that's really gonna suck. Okay, now that the correct drive letter has been selected, come down to the bottom right corner of the window and click on Start. At the confirmation window that appears, click on OK to format your USB drive. The formatting process takes only a moment, and you'll now have a USB drive properly formatted in FAT32 format. Once you're done, come down to the bottom right corner of the window and click on Close. Now that the USB drive is formatted in FAT32 format, we've got to get a specific file copied over to it. Right-click on File Explorer, then reopen your Downloads folder. Double-click into the AIO folder, and then double-click into the subfolder inside of it. For now, I'm going to go ahead and take this File Explorer window and move it over to the left side of the screen and snap it back into place over there. That USB drive is still connected here, so I'm going to open a second instance of File Explorer by right-clicking and then selecting this PC. If you take a look here, you'll see that the drive F is still connected, and you can double-click into it to access the root of the drive. I'm going to take this File Explorer window and drag and drop it over to the right side of the screen and snap it into place over there. Back at the all-in-one folder that you previously downloaded, there's a folder in here called OPL, Open PS2 Loader. Double-click into it. You're looking for a file here that says OPN PS2LD.elf. You can think of .elf as like a .exe or executable file for PlayStation 2 formatted files. We'll need to replace a file on the free mcboot card from 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐎 with an upgraded version of OPL. So the file you're looking for is called OPN PS2LD.elf. The purpose behind this is being able to use exFAT format on the hard drive. That's going to make future steps of formatting that drive and copying your games over to it super easy. Okay, so in this folder, locate the OPN PS2LD.elf file and drag and drop it over to the root of your USB drive. You're done with the USB drive for now. You can leave it in the computer, but just go ahead and close out the File Explorer window by clicking on the red X in the top right corner. Grab the solid-state drive that you're going to use with your PlayStation 2 and insert it into the dock. Place the solid-state drive with the pins facing down, and you'll feel the female port at the bottom of the dock. All you have to do is just line it up and push it straight down into the port at the bottom. Plug in the USB cable and power to the dock and turn it on. Once the drive is recognized by Windows, you'll see a new File Explorer window appear. Be sure to identify the correct drive letter, just like you did with the USB drive, before you format this drive. Or once again, you might end up formatting the wrong drive and formatting something like your Windows system drive. Okay, with it open now, I'm going to drag and drop it over to the right side of the screen and snap it into place. I'm going to select this PC from the list of choices in the left navigation pane. Here is the drive and drive letter that's associated with the SSD drive in the dock. If the drive's already formatted in exFAT format, you don't have to do this. But if it isn't, you need to follow this step before you proceed, otherwise your PS2 won't recognize the drive. Right-click and select Format. Make sure that you have exFAT selected in the list of choices in the Format dialog. Once you've confirmed you have exFAT selected, come down to Start at the bottom right corner and click on it. Then click on OK at the confirmation prompt that appears. The format process should only take a moment, as SSDs are really fast. Once the formatting process is complete, click on OK at the pop-up window to close it out. Then come up to the red X at the top of the Format tool to close it out and go back to File Explorer. Now that you have a properly formatted exFAT solid-state drive, double-click into that drive to access the root of the drive. It's time to copy over your PlayStation 2 content to the root of the solid-state drive. For this example, I'm using a folder called Demo. You're not going to have this on your computer. I just used this folder as a staging point for content for YouTube demonstrations. Okay, so your PS2 content needs to live in two folders. One's called CD for CD-based content, and the other is called DVD for DVD-based content. In this case, I'm moving over a selection of .iso formatted PlayStation 2 games that I backed up from my original discs. Once you've verified the content that you want to copy over, all you've got to do is drag over DVD and CD folders over to the root of your solid-state drive. And this point is where you're going to get the big win from having a solid-state drive instead of a mechanical hard drive. Not only are solid-state drives noiseless and have no moving parts, they can copy your content over about 5 times faster than a mechanical hard drive over this USB 3.0 connection. Once all of your content has been copied over to your solid-state drive, you can close out any open instances of File Explorer by clicking the red X's in the top right corner of the windows. That's everything you have to do with your PC. You can transition over to your PlayStation 2 for the remainder of this guide. Go ahead and remove the solid-state drive from the USB 3 dock. Take a look at that 2.5-inch to 3.5-inch adapter. There's a female SATA adapter port at the bottom of this adapter. When you insert the SSD into it, you need to make sure to put the male side of the SSD into that female port because that's a pass-through to the outside of the adapter. To insert the drive into the adapter, make sure that the SSD is facing with the label side up and the male pins facing downward. Then just insert the drive in, and you can just use your thumbs to seat the drive into the female pass-through port at the bottom of the adapter. Then you can use the smaller of the 2 sizes of screws included in the adapter to secure the solid-state drive in its 4 mounting holes to the adapter itself. Quick note here, don't worry, it absolutely still fits into the dock correctly so that you can add more PlayStation 2 games to it in the future. Take a look at this 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐎𝐒𝐿𝐵 PlayStation 2 SATA adapter board. There's a cover over the top male interface plug that needs to be removed before use. I find it easiest to connect the SSD to the adapter board by putting the adapter board face down on a table. Then you can grab the 2.5-inch drive and its 3.5-inch adapter, line up the male pins with the female port at the bottom, and then just press everything down into place gently. Once everything's seated correctly, you're ready to insert the hard drive and adapter into the PlayStation 2. Make sure that the top connector on the SATA adapter board lines up with the input on the PlayStation 2 itself. You'll know you have everything seated properly when both sides of the adapter board are completely flush with the back of the PlayStation 2 console. Now you can use a flathead screwdriver to tighten down the 2 screws on the back of the adapter to hold everything securely into place. Hook up your PlayStation 2 to power in your display. Then insert the free mcboot card into an open memory card slot on your PS2. In this case, I'm using the rightmost slot. Then insert the USB-A drive into an open USB port on your PlayStation 2. Fire up your PS2, and instead of the usual boot up sequence, you'll be greeted with the free mcboot logo. Give your PlayStation 2 a moment to load from the memory card, and you'll be greeted with the most recent version of free mcboot. There's an existing version of OPL on the free mcboot card, but the updated version of OPL is what's going to allow you to use the exFAT hard drive installed into your PlayStation 2. Here's how to get it updated. Use the D-pad on your PS2 to scroll down to the listing called 𝐿aunch_ELF. Then select it with the X button. Once you're inside the 𝐿aunch_ELF menu, the controls change. Circle is going to move forward through the menus and triangle goes back. To access the file browser, which is what we're going to need to move that file from the USB drive to the free mcboot card, press the circle button. Okay, this gets kind of smallish on screen, so I'm going to zoom in for just a minute here so we can take a closer look. There's a red highlight and it's currently on MC0. So MC0 is the memory card slot on the left and MC1 is the memory card slot on the right. We're going to be concerned with moving files from MAS, which is the USB drive, over to MC1, which is where the free mcboot card is located. So I'm going to bring the highlight down to MAS and then select MAS with the circle button so we can access the files on the USB drive. Remember that open PS2 LD.ELF file you copied to the root of the USB drive earlier? There it is. To get this file copied from the USB drive to the free mcboot card, you'll need to move the red highlight down using the D-pad so that you can highlight the open PS2 loader file. There are more menu options available inside 𝐿aunch_ELF. To access them, press the right one button on the PlayStation 2 controller. This is going to pull out a sidecar menu. You'll see a pointer here next to your options, and the very first option should already be highlighted by default, which is Copy. Select Copy with the circle button. Then press the triangle button to go back to the list of storage devices. Okay, let's take a moment to get up close and personal again with that list of storage devices. You'll need to move the red highlight up to the listing where your memory card is located, in this case MC1, and press the circle button. The open PS2 loader ELF file that's currently residing on your free mcboot card resides in the boot subfolder. Use the D-pad on the PS2 controller to bring the red highlight down to the boot subfolder and then press the circle button to select it. You'll see a match for the existing open PS2 loader.elf file that you previously copied from the USB drive here. To overwrite this file, press the right one button on your PlayStation 2 controller to pop out the sidecar menu. Paste should already be highlighted. Select it with the circle button. Quick note here about this pasting process inside 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐎𝐒𝐿. It's not going to give you a confirmation, and it's automatically going to go ahead and overwrite anything that you paste over an existing file. So if you use this process in the future, be extra careful about what you're doing, because once you overwrite something, it's permanent and there's no way to get it back. Once the pasting process is complete, you'll need to press the triangle button to go back one level in the navigation structure. Okay, here's the deal. You'll need to delete the OPL subfolder that's underneath the boot subfolder on your free mcboot card. You're not deleting OPL, you're just deleting the old settings for the prior version of OPL so that OPL can set up new settings and use your exFAT hard drive in the following steps. To do this, use the D-pad to bring the red highlight down to the OPL subfolder. Press the right one button on your PlayStation 2 controller to pop out that sidecar menu again. Use the D-pad to bring the highlight arrow down to delete and select delete with the circle button. You'll see a pop-up confirmation message appear. Select OK with the circle button to delete the OPL folder. At least when you delete stuff, you get a confirmation message. Okay, at this point, you are done with the 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐿 application. Power off your PlayStation 2 and remove the USB drive, but leave the free mcboot card in place in your memory card slot. Turn on your PlayStation 2 system to go back to the free mcboot main menu. This time, instead of launching 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐿, you're ready to launch OPL for the first time. Come down to the OPL listing in the menu and select it with the X button to launch OPL for the first time. Once you're at the main menu of OPL, there are two key settings that must be changed for things to work correctly. From the main menu of OPL, select Settings with the X button. From Settings, use the D-pad to scroll the highlight down until you get to BDM Start Mode. Select this setting with the X button and then press the D-pad several times down to change it to auto and press X to lock in the change. If you don't do this, OPL will not be able to recognize your exFAT hard drive when you make the change in the next setting. Next up, press the D-pad down to move the highlight down to HDD Start Mode and select it with X. Just like before, use the D-pad to move down until you change this setting to auto and select it with X to lock in the change. To make sure you save these changes, press the D-pad down until you get to OK at the bottom left corner of the screen and select OK with X. Your changes are saved, but they're not written to the configuration file yet. To write them to the configuration file, press down on the D-pad several times to save changes and select it with the X button. Now these changes will be applied every time that you start OPL. Press circle to go back to the OPL main menu. Press circle again and you'll now see the list of games installed on your hard drive ready to roll. Just to test to make sure everything works correctly, I'm going to go ahead and launch one of my favorite PlayStation 2 games here, Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast. So I'll highlight it with the D-pad and then press X to launch the game. And sure enough, everything loads exactly as it should. The games don't load faster off of an SSD compared to a hard drive because the limitation is the actual PS2 IDE interface itself. But with its quiet operation, increased reliability, and high speed with copying over your PS2 content, this project is a winner. Connecting your PlayStation 2 system to HDMI using a 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐿 adapter is a no-brainer. But what about connecting your other game systems? To do that, I recommend using the OSSC from 𝐃𝐈𝐿. I have a video showing you exactly how to use this right here and in the video description and pinned comment.